Sakal Gunar Vande Guru Sri Charanaravindan.
During our exile, Durvasa Muni, who eats with his 10,000 disciples, intrigued with our enemies to put us in dangerous trouble. At that time he, Lord Krsna, simply by accepting the remnants of food, saved us. By his accepting food thus, the assembly of Munis, while bathing in the river, felt sumptuously fed. And all the three worlds were also satisfied. Durvasa Muni, a powerful mystic Brahmin determined to observe the principles of religion with great vows and under strict austerities. His name is associated with many historical events, and it appears that the great mystic could be both easily satisfied and easily annoyed, like Lord Shiva. When he was satisfied, he could do tremendous good to the servitor, but if he was dissatisfied, he could bring about the greatest calamity. Kumari Kunti, at her father's house, used to minister all kinds of services to all great Brahmins, and being satisfied with her good reception, Durvasa Muni blessed her with a power to call any demigod she desired. It is understood that he was a plenary incarnation of Lord Shiva, and thus he could be either easily satisfied or annoyed. He was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and by Lord Shiva's order, he accepted the priesthood of King Shvetketu, because of the king's performance of sacrifice for 100 years. Sometimes he used to visit the parliamentary assembly of the heavenly kingdom of Indradev. He could travel in space by his great mystic powers, and it is understood that he travelled a great distance through space, even up to the Vaikuntha planets beyond material space. He travelled all these long distances within 1 year, during his quarrel with King Ambarisha, the great devotee and emperor of the world. He had about 10,000 disciples, and wherever he visited and became a guest of the great Kshatriya kings, he used to be accompanied by a number of followers. Once he visited the house of Duryodhan, the enemy cousin of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Duryodhan was intelligent enough to satisfy the Brahman by all means, and the great rishi wanted to give some benediction to Duryodhan. Duryodhan knew his mystic powers, and he knew also that the mystic Brahman, if dissatisfied, could cause some havoc, and thus he designed to engage the Brahman to show his wrath upon his enemy cousins, the Pandavas. When the rishi wanted to award some benediction to Duryodhan, the latter wished that he should visit the house of Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was the eldest and chief among all his cousins. But by his request, he would go to him after he had finished his meals with his queen, Draupadi. Duryodhan knew that after Draupadi's dinner, it would be impossible for Maharaj Yudhishthira to receive such a large number of Brahman guests, and thus the rishi would be annoyed and would create some trouble for his cousin Maharaj Yudhishthira. That was the plan of Duryodhan. Durvasa Muni agreed to this proposal, and he approached the king in exile, according to the plan of Duryodhan, after the king and Draupadi had finished their meals. On his arrival at the door of Maharaj Yudhishthira, he was at once well received, and the king requested him to finish his noontime religious rites in the river, for by that time the foodstuff would be prepared. Durvasa Muni, along with his large number of disciples, went to take a bath in the river, and Maharaj Yudhishthira was in great anxiety about the guests. As long as Draupadi had not taken her meals, food could be served to any number of guests, but the rishi, by the plan of Duryodhan, reached there after Draupadi had finished her meals. When the devotees are put into difficulty, they have an opportunity to recollect the Lord with rapt attention. So Draupadi was thinking of Lord Krsna in that dangerous position, and the all-pervading Lord could at once know the dangerous position of his devotees. He therefore came there on the scene and asked Draupadi to give whatever food she might have in her stock. On her being so requested by the Lord, Draupadi was sorrowful because the Supreme Lord asked her for some food, and she was unable to supply it at that time. She said to the Lord that the mysterious dish which she had received from the sun god could supply any amount of food if she herself had not eaten. But on that day she had already taken her meals, and thus they were in danger. By expressing her difficulties, she began to cry before the Lord as only a woman would do in such a position. The Lord, however, asked Draupadi to bring up the cooking pots to see if there was any particle of foodstuff left, and on Draupadi's doing so, the Lord found some particle of vegetable sticking to the pot. The Lord at once picked it up and ate it. After doing so, the Lord asked Draupadi to call for her guests, the company of Durvasa. Bhim was sent to call them from the river. Bhim said, "Why are you delaying, sirs? Come on, the food is ready for you." But the Brahmins, because of Lord Krishna's accepting a little particle of food, felt sumptuously fed, even while they were in the water. They thought that since Maharaj Yudhishthira must have prepared many valuable dishes for them, and since they were not hungry and could not eat, the king would feel very sorry, so it was better not to go there. Thus they decided to go away. This incident proves that the Lord is the greatest mystic, and therefore he is known as Yogeshvar. Another instruction is that every householder must offer food to the Lord, and the result will be that everyone, even a company of guests numbering 10,000, will be satisfied because of the Lord's being satisfied. That is the way of devotional service.